Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Just Law on IQRA TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and I'll be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, on Just Law we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to you, our viewers. And secondly, and more importantly, Just Law is a live show. So whatever questions that you have on any aspect of the law, you're able to call in and ask me those questions live on air, and hopefully I should be able to give you some guidance in relation to those matters. Now, as always on this show, as far as legal matters are concerned, we should be able to deal with a wide variety of different areas of law, ranging from immigration law matters, for which we get numerous questions, but also other areas of law such as family matters, criminal matters, etc. So whatever your queries relate to, please feel free to pick up the phone and give us a ring, and I should be able to hopefully deal with those matters live on air. Just a couple of points before we get going. Obviously on a live show I'm not able to look at your documents before I advise you. If it transpires that I need to look at your documents, then I will arrange for you to leave your number with the control room and I will call you back and make arrangements to look at those documents. Secondly, obviously live on air, it's not possible to take very detailed information from people who call in. Again, if it transpires that I need to speak to you at length, then I will arrange to do that off air. But in my experience, for the vast majority of calls that we receive, I should be able to give you some guidance in relation to the questions that you have live on air. Now, as always, we always pick a topic which is topical, which is a topic which normally generates a number of questions. And the topic for today, continuing in the series that we have been following in terms of immigration, we've looked at how applications are made to come to the United Kingdom, the different types of applications that you make to come to the United Kingdom as a partner. What I want to do today is go one step forward and look at the next stage in the process, and to look at how you can apply to extend your partner, your spouse visa in the United Kingdom. Because we've looked at how partners, spouses can come to the United Kingdom. At length, we've looked at the financial requirements and how they can be met. We've looked at the other requirements relating to accommodation and relationship requirements. But once somebody is in the United Kingdom, what do you need to do if you want to extend your visa in the United Kingdom? Because as our viewers are aware, unlike what the position was many years ago, where the Home Office would grant a 2-year visa, a 2-year partner visa, and then after the expiry of those 2 years, applicants were able to apply for indefinite leave straight away. That situation that we have had up until a few years ago, that's all finished now. Now, unfortunately, what we have is that it takes much longer for applicants to gain indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. Now it's done in 2 stages. The initial application, which is once accepted, results in the grant of a 2.5-year visa to come to the United Kingdom. So it's not like the old system where a 2-year visa was granted. This is a 2.5-year visa. And at the end of that period, it's not possible to apply for indefinite leave. You have to apply for an extension of that visa. So it's a 2.5-year visa that's initially granted, and then you have to apply to extend that for another 2.5 years. And it is the end of a total of 5 years in the United Kingdom that somebody on a spouse visa, on a partner visa, is able to apply for indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. So there's been a significant change in terms of the length of time it takes to obtain indefinite leave. There's a change because in the middle now you are applying for an extension to take you to the 5-year mark, and then applying for permanent settlement or indefinite leave as it is called, after having completed 5 years in the United Kingdom. So if we just go back a bit, where you have somebody who's married to a British citizen or married to somebody who has indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom, they've got their visa. Now, normally you'd expect that the first grant would be for 2.5 years. However, what you will find if you look at the visa grant is that it's actually for slightly longer than 2.5 years. It's for 2.5 years plus 3 months. So it ends up being for 2 years and 9 months. So it's a slightly longer visa than what you would expect. However, that shouldn't present any problems. What it does mean is that you need to be aware of the expiry of that visa and really work from the expiry date of that visa. So you need to look at what the visa card says in terms of the expiry of the current visa. And that visa card, as our viewers will be aware, is a card that you collect from the post office that you initially selected when the initial spouse partner application was made. It's normally one of your closest post offices, one of the closest major post offices, which has a facility for collecting biometric residence permits. And it's when you collect that biometric residence permit, it looks like a driving license, but it's pinkish in color. It's that document which has the expiry date on it. So it will say an issue date and an expiry date on that. And normally it will be, the date will be 2 years and 9 months from the initial grant of the visa. And it's that date you need to bear in mind. Now, it's absolutely crucial that whatever happens, you get the extension application in before that visa expires, because there are a number of problems which arise if you allow the visa to expire and don't make your extension application in time. First and foremost, you become an overstayer, which means potentially that you no longer have the right to work in the United Kingdom. It's imperative that you submit your application before the visa expires for your right to work to continue. So if the application isn't made in time, even if it's granted later on, the problem that arises is that that right to work, which is conditional upon an application being made on time, that right to work no longer will exist. So essentially, if you are working, you'll be working when you have no permission to work. The other problem is that if you miss the date for extending the visa, what the rules now say is that you will be permitted to obviously apply at any stage. But if you want to carry on, maintain the initial grant of the visa, the 2.5 years, and not lose those 2.5 years effectively, what you will have to do is apply within 14 days of the expiry of your visa. And as long as you've got evidence which can demonstrate why you were not able to apply before your visa expired, why didn't you apply, and as long as you've applied within 14 days of the visa expiry date, then the Home Office is likely to grant your visa, and your initial 2.5 years that you've spent in the United Kingdom, that's likely to remain intact. That's likely to be taken into account in completing your total 5 years in the United Kingdom. Let's take the example that you don't apply in time and you have no valid reason for delaying, or you apply after another 14 days have elapsed since your visa expired. In that situation, the Home Office may well grant you a visa to continue living in the United Kingdom, but the problem will be that those 2.5 years that you have already spent in the United Kingdom will no longer be counted. And the other problem that will occur is that when you've applied late and the Home Office decides that in your situation you should be granted a visa, the other problem that you will have is that you will be placed in what is known as a 10-year route to settlement. And that could be a 10-year partner route, that could be a 10-year parent route. But you're placed on this much longer route to settlement. So you've wasted your initial 2.5 years that you've spent in the UK. You will now be starting from year 0, and you will be having to complete another 10 years in the United Kingdom. So potentially somebody who's just come to the UK and spent 2.5 years, that's all going to be ignored, another 10 years. So you're potentially looking at something in the region of 13 years before you become eligible for indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. Now, that obviously is bad as it is, but to make matters worse, the way this 10-year route works is that the Home Office grants the visa in instalments, effectively, of 2.5 years. So after every 2.5 years, you're going to have to apply on time and pay the fees and extend the visa, continue to do that until 10 years have passed. So not only does it take a significantly long time to then obtain indefinite leave, it's a costly exercise, because at the end of every 2.5 years, you will end up having to pay the Home Office fees at each stage to extend your visa for the next 2.5 years. So it's important. The most important thing in these situations is that you don't miss the date on which the application has to be submitted, and that is a date that you get by looking at the visa card. So that's the preliminary matter out of the way. Should be straightforward, but you'll be surprised that every year you'll come across at least 1 or 2 people who've missed the date by mistake. They've had a date in their mind. In error, they've got the wrong date in their mind. They haven't looked at the card until it's too late, and then it's panic, and then it's having to resort to getting a visa under the 10-year route. So let's say that's all in order, and now we're looking at extending the visa. Now, how do we go about that? Practicalities, now all applications more or less are online. So you no longer print off forms from the Home Office website and then handwrite answers to the questions that you have on the form and then post the application off. That's all a thing of the past. You now make an application online, and for this particular application, what you go on to is the online version of the form as it was previously known, and they've actually retained the name FLRM. So effectively, that is the online form which is used to extend your visa based on your marriage. And FLRM stands for further leave to remain marriage. So the basis of the application is that the applicant is extending his or her visa on the basis of their marriage. Now, so you put in FLRM, the online form will come up, and now what you do is complete the online form, and the whole process now is digitalized in the sense that once the online application is completed, payment is made online as well. You no longer send a check-in, and once the payment has been made, again online on a slightly different website, you book your appointment as well to give your fingerprints and to have your photo taken. What used to happen before is people used to be sent, or people used to have to go to post offices, and the post office had a facility for fingerprints and photographs to be taken for applicants. That is no longer used. Applicants now, once they've applied online, made the payment, they book an appointment at a visa centre, which is normally a centre based in main cities. It tends to be in local authority type premises, so it could be in a town hall, it could be in the local library, where there's a facility there where this organisation, which is now taken over, so called Soprasteria, they have a desk there, and it is their job to take fingerprints and photographs of applicant. So again, it's done online. The form submitted online, the payment is made online, and the appointment for fingerprints and photographs to be taken again is made online. Now, viewers might be aware of a lot of bad publicity surrounding this new arrangement, in the sense that when you do book an appointment for your fingerprints to be taken, for your photographs to be taken, there is meant to be a facility whereby free appointments should be available. But in reality, what you tend to find is, if you're looking for something locally, you will have to pay for the appointment, and the fee is quite significant. There are fees which are generally in the region of £100–125. If you're lucky, you might get an appointment where you only pay £60. And sometimes if you need an appointment straight away, for whatever reason, what you find is the only place, generally speaking, where appointments are available is in London at the main centre, and the fees there come up to anything from £200 to approximately £275. Now, it's a large sum of money as it is, but look at a situation where there's an applicant along with, which doesn't necessarily apply to these cases, but there's an applicant and there are children here as well who need to apply. So there might be 3 children and an applicant. So there are 4 sets of fees to pay, not just the application fee and the NHS fee, but there's fees to pay for the appointment as well. So that's basically the process, where it's an online application, payments are made online, appointments are made online for fingerprints and photographs to be taken. So what about the documents which support the application? As our viewers are aware, who've been through this process before, that the Home Office placed a lot of emphasis on original documents and how you must submit original documents in terms of wage slips and bank statements, etc. There seems to be some flexibility as far as that's concerned, and the reason for that is that the Home Office, generally speaking, no longer requests or requires original documents to be submitted. Applicants need to have their supporting documents scanned and uploaded onto this Home Office partner website. So obviously there's no way for the Home Office to look at the documents to see whether they are originals or not. But now the system is that documents must be scanned and uploaded onto the Home Office website. So that's an overview of the process that needs to be followed when you are applying to extend your visa, which a lot of people aren't aware of, because this is a system which has come in just over the last few months. So that's the process. The bigger question that arises before we look at the requirements is, what is the cost of applying to extend the visa? And it's not cheap. The costs are in the region of £2,050. Let's take our next call before we return to this topic. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। इलियास भाई खैरियत से?
जी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह जी, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह
जी। इलियास भाई, मुझे बारबाडोस से बुलाना है
जी।
अगर कोई मेरे भाई को अगर वहाँ से यहाँ पे सेटल होने के लिए बुलाना है
जी,
तो क्या प्रोग्रेस है?
तो अभी जो अब क्या सोच रहे हैं, उसको किस बेसिस पे बुलाएंगे?
अगर परमानेंट यहाँ पे बुलाना हो तो।
राइट, तो उसकी शादी हो गई है, वहाँ सेटल्ड है,
वहाँ पे बच्चे भी है और वहाँ की पासपोर्ट भी है।
जी, वहाँ की पासपोर्ट भी है, और वो कुछ देख रहे हैं कि किस बेसिस पे यहाँ यूके में आ सकते हैं। चलो ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम है। मैं आपको ये डिटेल में आपको ये क्वेश्चन का आंसर अभी देता हूँ। जज़ाकल्लाह, थैंक यू फॉर योर कॉल। We get obviously a lot of questions about how do you come and settle in the United Kingdom. Obviously a lot of people want to do that. असल में इसमें प्रॉब्लम ये है कि अभी काफ़ी होम ऑफिस ने काफ़ी मुश्किल कर दिया है। अगर कोई यहाँ यूके आना चाहता है सेटलमेंट के लिए, तो उसके लिए काफ़ी मुश्किल है। अभी सिर्फ एक ही रास्ता अभी ओपन है, वो अगर वर्क परमिट पे यूके में आ जाए, और जो वर्क परमिट है वो एट द मोमेंट सिर्फ इसको देते हैं जो कोई थोड़ा सा ग्रेजुएट लेवल का जॉब करने के लिए वो यूके में आ रहा है। सो यहाँ अगर कोई बिज़नेस है और बिज़नेस प्रॉपर इस्टेब्लिश्ड है और उसको कोई प्रोफेशनल आदमी की ज़रूरत है, फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल फाइनेंस डायरेक्टर business development director, marketing manager, human resources manager. अगर कोई बड़े there's a large business यहाँ है और उसको कोई ऐसे बंदे की ज़रूरत है तो वो आपका भाई के बारे में आप बात कर रहे थे, वो उसको स्पॉन्सर पोटेंशियली कर सकते हैं। अभी प्रॉब्लम क्या है इमिग्रेशन सिस्टम में कि इसके अलावा और जो सारे रास्ते थे वो तो ऐसे ही समझो कि बंद हो गए हैं। वो एंटरप्रेन्योर की वीज़ा थी पहले, जो 200,000 पाउंड इन्वेस्ट करके वो यूके में आ सकते थे बिज़नेस इस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए, वो भी ऐसे समझो कि वो बंद हो गया। सो रियली एक ही रास्ता अभी बाकी रहा है सेटलमेंट के लिए। और तो टेम्प्री अगर कोई आना चाहता है तो उसके लिए तो ओपन है, फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल विज़िट वीज़ा, स्टूडेंट वीज़ा, वो तो ऑब्वियसली ओपन है, मगर इसमें तो वैसे कुछ कर नहीं सकते। एक ही रास्ता रियली अवेलेबल है, वो जो वीज़ा है वर्क परमिट, जो टियर 2 जनरल उसको कहते हैं, वही बेसिस पे आ सकते हैं। बट थैंक यू वेरी मच for your call. So just returning to what we were looking at before, and really looking at the cost of extending your spouse or partner visa in the United Kingdom. You might have spent 2.5 years in the UK, you're now ready to extend your visa. So what is the cost of that? So the cost of that is something in the region of £2,050, and that's for a standard application where the processing time is approximately 2 to 3 months. If you want to apply to get a quicker decision, you have to use the priority service, and for that they charge an extra £800. So it ends up being quite an expensive process. You've got 2,050 for your standard application and an additional £800, which gets you to a total of £2,850. So it is a significant amount of money. And as our viewers might be aware, what I mentioned before, there might be another small fee to pay as well to book the appointment for biometrics. So you don't have much change left for £3,000. Then obviously lawyers have their fees, which range, from my experience, from something in the region of about £600 to they go up to £700-800 or £1,000. Down south it seems to be more expensive around the London area. So it ranges from £500 to £600 to something in the region of £1,000 as well. So it's quite an expensive process. Even if you go for the standard application, you throw the lawyer's fees in, it could mean that you end up paying anything from just over £2,500 to £3,000 in total. So it's a significant sum of money, and really if you think about it, it is, if you don't have that kind of money at the time of applying, what you should really do is arrange or get savings in place from well in advance, so when it comes to applying for the visa, you've got the money in place. Now, just before we look at the requirements, one more point I should make is that there is a possibility whereby you can apply for a fee waiver. The only problem with the fee waiver application is that if it's granted to you because of your children, etc., you will get a visa, but you will be placed on the 10-year route to settlement, as opposed to the current route that you might be on, which is the 5-year route to settlement. So they'll if they grant a fee waiver, waiving the £2,050 fee, then if you're successful, you will be placed on the 10-year route to settlement. So that's the other problem with fees there. So that's an overview of how the application process works, and there's an overview of what the cost is likely to be. And at the outset I explained that the key thing is you have to make sure you're ready to apply before the visa expires, and really under no circumstances should you be in a position where you've missed that date and your visa has expired, because it causes significant problems. Now, that's the sort of background to the application. So let's say you're now ready to apply. You're on a spouse visa, you've completed your 2.5 years, you're ready to apply. So what are the main requirements that you need to fulfill? What do you need to be looking out for? Now, before we go into detail, in my experience, there are really 3 things that you need to be aware of. This is something that you need to be aware of for the duration of your visa, and really from the outset, because these are things that you can put in place so that it's easy when it comes to applying for your extension. So what are these things that you need to be aware of? We'll look at the requirements in detail, but there are 3 things that you need to bear in mind. First of all, there is an English language requirement. And I'll look at the requirements in detail, but in essence, once you've come to the UK, you would have passed the A1 test in English. There is a requirement to get an A2 test certificate in English. So one thing to bear in mind from the outset is that there will be an English language requirement which will have to be met. What's the second thing you should bear in mind? Second thing, bear in mind that there is a financial requirement that will need to be met again. Obviously, when the initial application was made to sponsor the husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom, you would have done a lot of work to make sure the financial requirement is met at that stage. That's not the end of the process. When you apply for the extension of the visa, the financial requirement has to be met again. So that's the second thing you need to bear in mind, the English language requirement, secondly the financial requirement. The third thing that you need to bear in mind from the outset is that you will need to prove that the husband and wife, you are both living together. And the way the Home Office looks at this is to ask for documents coming in your name, coming in your partner's name at the same address. So you need to be collecting these documents really from the outset. So they're the 3 things you need to bear in mind from the outset. And what I tend to do is when I've got clients who've sponsored their husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom, they've come over to the United Kingdom, and they normally come to see you and say, look, you know what, we've got the visa, here's the letters we've got. I normally say to them, that's all well and good, right, thinking ahead, what do you need to do? And I tell them, look, there are 3 things that you need to bear in mind. Your partner will need to pass an English test, so he or she needs to improve their English. Secondly, there will be a financial requirement. You need to keep that in mind. That may change in 2 years, it might go up, whatever. So if need be, you need to come and see me, make sure we meet whatever the requirement is in place at the time. So, keep that in mind from now. And thirdly, you will need to prove that you're together. So try and keep documents together coming in your name, partner's name at the same address. So that's normally a little talk that I have with clients at the outset. So what are these main requirements that you need to fulfill? Now, initially, there are some key, leaving the evidence about income and accommodation to one side and the relationship to one side. There are some key documents that you will need. Shouldn't be difficult to get hold of. So nearly all applications to the Home Office will require, and again this requires the same, will require copy of the applicant, so whoever's come over from abroad, whether it's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, copy of their passport and their partner's passport as well. So basic documents, copies of their passport. Another very an important document, but the basic document, is the BRP card. This is the card that's been collected from the post office, which has the expiry date. You need that as well. Passports, BRP, standard documents which need to be submitted really with all applications. Now, this is obviously an application based on marriage, an extension of that application. So a key document will be the marriage certificate. Again, shouldn't present a problem. This is the same document that would have been used to apply for the initial spouse or partner visa. So you just need to have that handy along with the translation of that document. So, and then obviously we talked about the English certificate as well. Let's take a short break and we'll look at these details in greater detail after we come back.